Okay, I want to show you a little bit about Blackboard, just a couple of quick things so the next time you go to a regular Blackboard session, you'll understand what's going on. If you'll see most of the presentation right in this area, sometimes they call it the whiteboard or the canvas. Over here on the left, the upper part in the dark area, you probably will either see it dark or you'll see, you can see a video, a live video feed of the individual giving the presentation. It just depends on the individual giving it whether they want to do that, or it could be just a still picture. Moving down, you have areas here where you can adjust volume. If you're given the opportunity to talk, you could click on the talk button and then speak to everyone that's in the session. That's not a typical thing, but it's possible. You'll see the people down here that are logged in. And this one you'll see currently the moderator is me, Jim Jarnigan. And you'll see somebody else logged in to review it, Bob. And then you'll see down here where a chat session could go on. For instance, you could click in here and say, you might say, hello, everyone. And then I'll hit the return or enter key. And then everyone that's in this session, whether it's just a couple people or 15 people, they'll see where you said that. And it'll show your name there that you said it. Okay. All right. The things that I want you to be aware of when you do your session or view one, the person giving the session may ask a question. Does everybody understand? Does anybody have questions? Things like that, like what happened in a regular class. So that's where these buttons right here come into play. So if you go here, the first one, you can see, is everything okay? You probably, the best thing would go to the smiley face, click on that, and you'll see a little smiley face will show up. And that each person in the group might say, click on that if everything's okay. If you're not okay, or there's some kind of you're not sure about something, you could go down to confusion. Now, sometimes the person giving the presentation will ask you, show me a smiley face if you're happy or whatever. Okay, the next group that you can see here, you would click if you had to leave the room. Okay, you're at home, or say you're at a coffee shop, and you're going to want to listen to these. There'll be actual audio, of course. You'll probably, if you're anywhere in your home or away from home, you'll want to have earbuds or headphones or whatever you want to call them so that you can hear what's being said. And so if you have to step away, say somebody in your home says, hey, I need you, I've got a problem, and you have to step away for a moment, hopefully you'll let them know ahead of time you're in a session. They don't last any longer than 15, 20 minutes typically, but say you need to step away, you could click that so somebody doesn't keep, this person doing the session or presenting it doesn't keep asking you a question about what's going on. You know, that way they'll know, oh, okay, so that person is in the other room and they'll be back in a moment. Now the other thing, and then when you're back, you would click it again to turn it off. Here, so does anybody have a question? You could click here and that will show, now that's me, I'm giving this session, but that'll show that I have a question. And so the person giving the presentation would probably stop and say, oh, Jim, do you have what's your question? Now, at that point, it can be done two different ways. Typically, you would come down here at the bottom and type in here, say you want to say, when is our next session? And then you hear enter or return, depending on your computer. And the person that's given the session could respond. They could either type it in, or they could, you know, since they have a microphone, they could say, our next session is in 3 weeks when you're in at the end of the 5 modules and we need a session to explain the next part of the class. It could be something like that. Okay, so that's that. Now you click again, take your hand down, and then sometimes they're going to ask you questions like yes or no. Okay, so does anybody have any questions? Okay, you could just say, go down here to no. Okay, and a lot of times they'll explain this, but just in case they don't, I want you to be aware of that. Now, there's tools where they can draw on the page and say, for instance, they're explaining something on the page and they could go around it. But you don't need to be aware of that at this point. That could happen, but that's, that's another part of it. I want you to be able to interact with the person giving the session, whether it's me or somebody else, so that you understand how it goes, okay? And basically that's all I want to show you. So keep in mind, you can say yes, no, raise your hand. I'm stepping away from the session for a moment. Here you can say if you're happy or whatever. And along the way, if you have a question, just comment at the very bottom, click, and type in what your question is, and then hit the enter or the return, once again, depending on the kind of computer you have. If you're asked to talk and you're willing to do that, which is not a big deal, but not typical, go ahead and click the talk button. Make sure that you have a microphone. You're going to want to make sure you have earphones to listen, and you might, if you don't have a microphone, if you're using a laptop, there's probably going to be a built-in microphone. If you're using a desktop computer or something else, you can actually, Bob here is logged in through his smartphone. And so, you might be asked to talk and then, make sure there's some kind of microphone. Otherwise, if they say, would you like to talk, just say, you could type in whatever your question is, okay? So that's basically it. I want you to have this so you can see how this works before you get into your first presentation or the next presentation. And so I'm going to send this to you, and then when you get into your session, you'll be able to try things out. I hope this makes some kind of sense, and I hope you have a great day.